Yeah, okay, that looks good. All right.
This is AK, I'm Mark, and this is the YMC.
Today, what's this one about?
Session 2 is the Karim show. Well, session 2 gives us an opportunity to kind of dive into the digital space a little bit more, and understand the different components, what we're going to be working with, the types of people we're going to be interacting with, and seeing how they all kind of connect in different production flows. And now that we have a project, where do you start? Develop strategy, understand content, start creating a lot of the IA, or information architecture, that is the blueprint for a lot of these projects.
We might want to get a little bit of the response, and then at the end, we really love it. Instead of pages to search for it. It makes it easier for...
What would you say this session is about?
The business side of the project and managing your relationships and stuff like that, as opposed to the technical side, I suppose, which we'll get into later weeks. You kind of want a 360 view of what it is that you're getting yourself into. And so I think in that respect, it's very smart that we're kind of looking at both sides of this.
This session, or this day, it's called Digital Cycle and Scope Recognition. So the main objectives of this class is really to understand what happens sort of behind the closed doors of these interactive agencies and these web development shops. What are important sort of steps in the cycle to go from sort of ideation to deployment of a website. And really, these things are broken down into these three main categories: strategy, management, and production. So strategy, it starts very early on at acquisition. And when I say acquisition, I mean client acquisition or customer acquisition. That's really where the strategy begins. So as a development shop, we need to be able to really pinpoint the type of clients that we're going after, and then find different areas or techniques and mediums to help find those clients. Acquisition was as easy as jumping on to Craigslist and looking at sort of the wanted ads. Craigslist was the only active sort of sales and client acquisition tool we used for about 1.5 years. So just diving into management a little bit closer. The idea of management, again, comes down to a few key areas: schedules, costs, and resources. Resources are, of course, one of the most important things to any project, because these are the people that are going to be making things happen. Resources are the project managers, they're the designers, they're the developers, the copywriters, all sorts of content producers. So going into production a bit more, there's a couple of different ideas. The idea of waterfall versus agile are sort of the main production methodologies that shops take. So waterfall is a very linear way of producing websites or applications. So essentially you start with strategy, and then strategy leads to requirements, then requirements lead to design, and design leads to development, and development leads to testing, and testing leads to deployment. As you can see, it's kind of taking this waterfall approach to the production cycle. When it comes to laddering, you can ladder a little bit between the waterfalls and between each area, but really you're dependent on the previous step. You can't really jump into requirements until you've created your strategy. Now we'll look at Agile. The key learnings that I want to take away from Agile relative to this course is collaboration and iterative development. So let's take a look at how Agile looks. So essentially you go from requirements, and then you go to design, you go to development, testing, and then back to requirements. You're building this cycle, and it's not so much a waterfall as it is a cycle. So what you're building when you go Agile is you're constantly taking steps. And what each one of these blocks represents is a live site. So we're not waiting to get to the very end to launch the site, where we would be with waterfall, because you'd have to go through all these different stages, and at the very end you launch the site. With Agile, you're launching features every essentially 2 weeks. So one of the Agile methodologies is the idea of 2-week sprints. So you go through this cycle over a span of 2 weeks, and at the end of those 2 weeks, you deploy. you're kind of guessing. So when you're going waterfall, at the very top of the waterfall, you're guessing, this is what I'm going to build. And this is how I'm going to build it. And then you don't really see anything until the last week. Whereas here, you're constantly building and deploying so that if you did something wrong or you're going down the wrong path, you don't have to wait 6 to 8 weeks to realize you went down the wrong path. You can see right away on implementing that specific feature that, you know what, it didn't work. And then you can reprioritize. You didn't waste too much time. You didn't start building a lot of features on top of that feature because that feature doesn't work now. So that's sort of the benefit of Agile. There's collaboration tools, Basecamp being the one created by 37 Signals that's widely used, as well as Microsoft's Project Professional. These are applications that allow you to plan projects, that let you look at the things we were talking about before, schedules, costs and budgets, and resources. These tools are more like mind mapping, idea, diagram creation type tools, Microsoft Visio. You can create different diagrams if you're trying to explain how your database is going to work. You can build those diagrams in Visio. Glyphy, the same thing. It's like a web app version. You can also do sort of mind mapping exercises if you want to just kind of put all your thoughts in different bubbles all over a screen. These softwares allow you to do that. Prezi, PowerPoint, these things are obviously presentation tools.
I'm a sales guy for a corporate, sports marketing company. And I just really love sports, and I'm online all the time, listening to podcasts, reading about different facts, all that kind of stuff. I'm starting to get into tweeting it a little bit, and so I thought I'd want to create something that I could house all of my super interesting opinions about the happenings in sports.
Would you say the YMC is sort of like just filling your brain up already with stuff you could use to further your internet presence?
Yeah, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just it's kind of just I'm getting a million different ideas at once. I don't really know what any of them mean. I don't know if any of them are good. I don't know if any of them are going to go anywhere. But just really, it's something my brain's never really thought about before. I've never really gone to that place, and this is really encouraging me to do that.
So this week we have the pleasure of welcoming our first guest speaker of the season. We've got Karim Kanji, writer for Tech Vibes.
All right, so my name is Karim Kanji, and I'm here today at the YMC, and we're going to be talking about creating killer content. I think content and community go hand in hand. No one's going to know about you if you're not talking. And what the internet obviously provides people is an opportunity to talk at any time. Content is king, okay? And here's why. A lot of people say content is king. Because content leads to conversations about you and your brand, your clients, and so forth. So let's talk about link bait. But a lot of people say, how can I get the most traffic? Let me write things like, 50 ways to leave your lover, or 7 tips to increase traffic, or get 13 bajillion followers on Twitter in 3 easy steps. People kind of gravitate, the masses gravitate to titles like that, right? But the value that they actually provide might be useless. That's link bait. Then there's content that is fun. I've got a thing on Tech Vibes that I do every Wednesday called 5 Questions With. It's a fun interview that is had with people here in Toronto, and it's the same 5 questions, and they're very simple questions like, what's your favorite tech toy? What's your favorite social media site? Who is the next up-and-coming superstar in digital media in Toronto? So it's kind of like some insights into some of the characters that are in Toronto. There's content that connects. I like telling stories about companies and connecting them not just with people in Toronto, but with people across Canada as well. Informative content. For example, interviewing Mark Saltzman, if you've ever been to the movies, he's the guy that comes on before all the movies start talking about, gadgets and things like that. Community. Talking about local events that I like telling stories about, some of the companies that are there or some of the things that are going on to give a sense of community that, although it's just a half a dozen people at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday talking about how they can help each other because they don't have a lot of money to invest into, figuring out what to do. I like telling stories like that because it gives them, some pride that, there's people out there that are actually interested in what's going on. And then we have conversation. And here's the big thing. It's not just online conversation. Because even though that's important, I think what's even more important is where things are going next. What's the future of social media? Really, it's about more of the social rather than the media. right? It's the face-to-face interaction that you're going to have with people. And I think that's where the future of content is probably going. You can have the coolest website, you know, in terms of the technology and the back end, but if you've got nothing there for people to consume, then what use is the website, really?
Jake and I have been working together for like 3 or 4 years now, and we kind of branched off in terms of our responsibilities, right? He went more along the business development strategy, that kind of thing. I went focus more. Once we started working together, I went to focus more on research and development and some of the programming there. So one of the other cool things about the YMC, at least from my perspective, is that I get to kind of hear all the new stuff that he's hit on over the past 6 months that we haven't had a chance to discuss, and how he's approaching things now. So it's always kind of fun for me to hear him go off and do his things on days like today.
I wouldn't be able to even stand up there and teach if I didn't have Mark in the audience cheering me on. It definitely means a lot to me when I look up and he has a thumbs up or a wink for me. And
It's family. It's all family here.
So next week is one of my favorite sessions. We're going to be looking at creative. You know, how do you get from concept to execution? What does the creative process look like? And how do we take all that sort of research and content that we've talked about in this previous class and turn that into something that has life?